Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. As we promised, we'll look at the perspective in regards to God, in regards to man, and in regards to the universe. And eventually, if time permits, we'll look at eschatology. It's the spiritual perspective in regards to God is that through Islam, God have managed to reveal what is in full in regards to His nature. I'll repeat. God revealed through the Quran or through Islam its true nature to mankind and to the capacity that the mankind could understand. Previous religions, yes, they have revealed the nature of God, but not to the extent that that Islam have revealed. So the reality, for example, in regards to God, when we look at in the Quran, in the teachings of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, we would find that God is the one who is, for example, His divine nature is a supreme reality. He is the one who is infinitely close to the man, at the same time who is infinitely beyond. He is very far, but at the same time he is very close, like closer to the jugular vein, as we have the verse of the Quran, but at the same time very far. Or for example, if you look at the dua, in one of the duas of the fourth Imam, in Dua Abu Hamza Somali, we find that God is someone whose masafa, the path or the length between man and God is very close. Qaribul masafa, as they say, it's very close, but at the same time he's very far. So this unique explanation in regards to God, like for example, He is the sustainer, He is the creator, but at the same time He is the destroyer. He is the one who is beyond and above everything. That's His oneness, or His oneness is of a type وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. That oneness is of a type where He is the Surah Tawheed itself, قُلْ وَاللَّهُ أَحَدَ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ. He's Samad, meaning that He is containing within it. The Samad really means Samad means that it has all perfection within it. Every perfection that you think of is within God. So قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ. Allah is the one who is Samad. So that's this type of nature of God wasn't expressed in the previous faith. We find that these expressions is very unique and special in the Islamic traditions, whether that be in the Quran, whether that be in the hadith of the Prophet, or in the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, particularly if we look at the du'as in Sayf Sajjadiya or other du'as as well, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His essence and His nature is disclosed or is shown to man. Now, within the Quran, if you look at the sciences of the names of God, as God calls it, Lahul Asma'ul Husna, there are these divine, beautiful names of the Lord, of God. God have names, and these names are pointing out to its nature, its who God is. Now, these names are not different from each other. They are one. All names are one, but is explaining and describing all that is positive. All the positive qualities that one could really imagine that is within God. Now, some tend to distribute these names into the names of Jalal, which means the sovereign names of the God, Asma'il Jalal, and then they say Asma'il Jamal, which is the beautiful names of God. They tend to divide that. Now, the Asma'il Jalal, which tend to point out to the majesty of the Lord, and the Asma-e Jamal, which points out to the beauty of the Lord. Both are nothing but an explanation of the divine nature, who God is. Now, if we go further, we would find that how these names are manifested or are and its presence within the nature. Now you have the verse that wherever you turn, there's this face of God, and everything is gonna be highlighted, illa wajho, except the wajh, except the face of the Lord, that will not annihilate. So that means turning of your face wherever, you would be able to see the Lord, you would be able to see God. Or in another verse, for example, you would find that Allah or God is with you wherever you are. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. So wherever you are, Allah is with you. So what is required of man is to really open that inner eye, to really open his heart, to really feel that presence of the Lord. And His presence is with him. He is closer to him than his own jugular vein. There is only Lord that exists. There is only God that exists. Wherever you turn, there is a face of God. I mean, this type of understanding was not seen in the previous sort of religions that were sent by God. So in Islam, the true nature of the divine, God expresses Himself in the most perfect form in Islam. So a person who wants to know God, for him is Islam. A person who wants to know his Creator, for him is Islam. For a person who wants to understand and have the knowledge of the Lord, for him is Islam. He will be able to understand the nature of God in full, which doesn't mean that there is no truth or there is no explanation of the divine in the previous religions, whether that be Christianity or Judaism or other faith. No, there is. But in regards to its fullness, that you would find in Islam. And particularly, I would be going one step further, and I would be saying that in the teachings of the Ahl Bayt, in the du'as of the Ahl Bayt, in the sermons of the Ahl Bayt, you would find that, in depth sort of explanation and the complexities and the subtleness of this divine presence of the Lord within us and around us. So that's God, how He is and who He is. He has expressed Himself in the deen, in the religion of Islam. And at the same time, He has expressed Himself to His full capacity that could be understood by man. The capacity that man have to understand, the capacity that man could travel in this world to comprehend God, has been explained in Islam. In the nutshell, what is of value or what it matters is knowing God, and that's what it is, period. It is only knowing God, whether that be in the form of law that we practice, whether that be in the form of understanding the presence, wherever you turn there's a face of God, whether that be in the form of knowing the sciences of these names and trying to understand them, whether that be in the form of we are seeing outside and within ourselves. That's what it is. And for someone who wants to embark upon this path, for him becomes Islam. For him becomes that he surrender. For him becomes that he accept this. And then obviously, you have Islam, then you have Iman, and then you have Ihsan. I will briefly explain these terms. Islam is that one really accepts that, oh yes, that makes sense, and one accepts it. The expression of the Lord in the form of the law, where He accepts the law to be divine nature, of divine nature, and accepts it. the pill, whatever comes within the law, the furu, and then he accepts it. Now, still the having iman upon it is not existing. Once he accepts it, then he has iman upon it. Then he believes, or he has faith upon it, that it is nothing but the truth. First is that expression, shahada, by which he becomes a Muslim. Then when he believes in it, when he has faith in it, then that becomes iman. That person becomes a mu'min. So Muslim, mu'min, and finally is that ihsan, which is where he practices it. He not only believes in it, but he practices it. And then that deals with that becomes one with his true nature. He has not just accepted it, but by ihsan, he has accepted in full, with his nature. It has become one with his fitra, it is in perfect harmony with him. Now, going back onto, as we said, man, as we said, God, and what Islam what is Islamic perspective or spiritual perspective in regards to God. Then after comes the understanding of man, who man is. It is quite important to really know who man is, where he come from and where he's heading. Why is he here? What is the purpose of him here? Who he is in reality. Then when we look from the spiritual perspective, the reality and the truth of man, we would find, for example, he is an intelligent being. We would find that he is created in the image of God. We would find he is, the Khalifa, the representative of God on earth. We would find to be on top of the chain of all of creation. And at the same time, we would find that he is nothing but the abd, which means that he is the slave. He is nothing vis-a-vis God. So when he is the Khalifa, which means right opposite, khalf, representing, and also when you stand in a mirror, your image is opposite to each other. It also have that sort of deeper meaning. That reflection, in front. Then you have the manifestation, or he's in the image of God, meaning that he's in that image. He's created in the God created Adam in his image. So this also points out to his nature, who man is. But at the same time, he's nothing. As the Quran says that, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, you are antumul fuqara, you are nothing but faqir. And this is the essential reality of man, just as number 3 is the essential reality of being odd. 3 is an odd number, and it is by essence odd number. So the same way, the essential reality of man is really nothing, that he is faqir, that he is completely dependent upon the Lord. His wujud and his existence is because of the Lord. It's like the light which is in this studio connected to that very light bulb. If that goes off, the light will goes off. The light have a reality. Nobody is denying the reality of the light. The light exists exactly. The light is around us. The light is here. But this light will not be there, or is not independent even for 1/10 of a second, even for 1/10 of his wujud and of his existence. It's not independent at all. It purely depends upon that fluorescent. It purely depends upon that bulb or light, whatever that is, that light bulb or tube light or whatever you want to call. It purely depends on that. If that is not there, there will be no light around us, right? It has its own independent reality. It has its own reality, but not independent. It purely depends on something else for its existence, for it to be there. It is providing benefit to us here, but the benefit goes back to that source, which is the light bulb. So the same way, man within the Islamic understanding or within the spiritual perspective, is nothing. He has no independent existence. He purely depends on God for his existence, for his wujud. Whatsoever there is the Lord, So therefore, that is the reality of man. And if he understands that he is really nothing, then he will be able to see the divine reflection within himself. Then that divine qualities will reflect in him. When the mind empties all its connection, all its thoughts that it has within, when it reaches that, then that is the time for that divine revelation to descend in the mind or in the heart of man. Then God speaks to man. There's all of these things that exist within him is because of the comprehension that he has carried out during the day, and then he sees that in a form of a dream, if you want to take it from that angle, because he has given names, he has understood the reality around him in multiplicity, and as he has seen this reality to be independent of, he has occupied his mind with this multiple reality that is around him, and he think of this reality to be independent, and that is why he is unable to see the Lord in that sense of the word. As we said, wherever you turn the face, there is face of God, or as we said that wherever you are, there is وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. So once he empty himself, and then he will be able to see that in his heart there is no one but the Lord. As they say that when the guest is supposed to come, you broom the house, you clean the house, and then the guest will come, right? So the same way as our heart, as our soul have been preoccupied with the multiple reality around us, with the dunya, as long as we are attached to it, then the reflection of the divine light is impossible in our heart. It's like a mirror. If we clean the mirror, the reflection will take place. The light is already there. The light is there in the room. But if I have a mirror which is dirty, it will not reflect the light. But if I clean this mirror, then it will be able to reflect that light in full, right? So that cleaning and cleansing is required. And that is the true nature of man. That's what man is, in his true nature, in his fitra. That's what we call fitra, that intrinsic nature of man, where the divine reality, where the divine manifests itself. So that is man. Now the universe, as we said, God, man and universe. The universe is also not independent. It really depends on God. And it is an amana. It is a trust given by God to man. And he is the caretaker of this trust. Now when he approaches the nature, he should approach it as a trust, rather than plundering it, rather than destroying it, but rather he should be taking care of it. When it requires to curtail it, when it requires to tame it and trim it, just like as a gardener who, in order to make a rose bush grow, in order to make fruit to be ripe and to give the best of the fruit, he would cut, he would taper, he would cut few branches, he would shape them so that the sunlight reaches it and it gives the fruit. But he will not cut the whole tree, but he will trim it. He will cut few branches where it's required. He would so that the sunlight reaches there. So the same way, the nature and the universe is nothing but the amana of Allah, of God, given to man, and he is the caretaker of this amana. So what we see today, when we are talking about spiritual perspective in regards to the universe, in regards to the nature, what we see today is that man, instead of taking care of the nature, He's plundering the nature. He is sucking the whole, the essence from it for his personal materialistic benefit, rather than he's taking care of them. A CEO of a company dumps, of a petroleum company dumps his waste in the ocean so that he makes money, so that this whatever he has gained the capital, but on the other hand he is destroying the nature by dumping its waste. So the most of the problems that we face, when we said in the very beginning, Islam means that it is the way of life. Is the way of life in the sense that you treat the nature the best way possible. So when we say that Islam is under attack with the alien culture, this is what it means. The destruction of nature, the destruction of the ozone layer, the destruction of the jungles in Amazon is nothing but a destruction and an invasion upon Islam, upon Deen in that universal sense. So therefore a man, when he is a Muslim, he is in harmony with the nature. He is in perfect harmony with the nature because he is the caretaker of it. He will try his level best to make it, to give the best to it. And at the same time, as he is a caretaker, he will be benefiting from it. So from one point of view, he's been given through Islam the true nature of God. He's been provided with the true understanding of himself, and at the same time he's been provided with what nature or what universe mean. So imagine how beautiful this faith is, that in which you have perfect understanding of the Creator, then at the same time who you are, and what you should be, and what you could become. And number 3, the universe that is around you and how you would really relate to it, because you are here in this universe, and it requires that you should really have a relationship with your surrounding. And what type of relationship you should have, it is quite important to know. When things are around me, what is my relationship? If I know my relationship with this glass here, then I will be using it as a glass. If I don't know the relationship of me and him, then what I could put it on my head, right? So I have to have the understanding of it. So therefore, that's what spiritual perspective is about, that where by being a Muslim, he would have a deeper understanding of God, deeper understanding of himself and his relationship with the nature. Thank you for being with us, and we hope to see you next week again, and we will be having Sheikh Hanif back next week, inshallah. And goodbye from Hidayat tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.